Just as the stranger hinted at more, her husband abruptly grabbed her arm, urging her to leave. His voice was low but filled with panic, as though he was desperate to end the conversation before more truths spilled out. The bride was torn, her heart racing, as she realized she was standing on the edge of something far bigger than she could have ever anticipated. As the bride pulled her arm away from her husband, she demanded the truth. The stranger's words lingered in her mind, adding fuel to her anger and confusion. Her husband hesitated, his eyes darting between her and the stranger, before finally admitting the truth. He had been in financial trouble for months, and her younger sister had offered to help him, at a cost. What began as a secret arrangement to cover his debts spiraled into something he claimed just happened, though the guilt in his voice betrayed him. But the stranger wasn't done. He handed the bride a folder filled with documents and photos, proof that her husband's betrayal wasn't limited to her sister. There were others, and worse, there were legal troubles he had been hiding that could ruin her too. Shocked and heartbroken, the bride realized her husband had not only destroyed her trust, but put her entire future in jeopardy. Then the final twist. The bride's sister spoke up, her voice trembling with tears. She revealed that she hadn't been an innocent participant in all of this. She had been blackmailed by the husband. He had uncovered a mistake from her past and used it to manipulate her into silence and compliance. The betrayal wasn't just a personal attack. It was a tangled web of lies and control. The bride, shattered but determined, made a decision. She walked out, leaving them both behind, ready to rebuild her life. But as she stepped into the cold night air, the stranger stopped her one last time. "There's more you need to know," he said, his tone heavy with a warning. And with that, the story ended, leaving her, and the audience, wondering what deeper secrets had yet to come to light. The bride stood in silence, holding back tears as the stranger's words echoed in her mind. She realized the truth wasn't something she could fully grasp in that moment. It was too deep, too painful. But she knew one thing. She couldn't allow herself to be trapped in the lies and betrayals any longer. She thanked the stranger for his help, though her heart was heavy with the weight of everything she'd learned. In the days that followed, she filed for annulment and began cutting ties with both her husband and her sister. It wasn't easy, but with every step forward, she felt stronger. She leaned on close friends, finding solace in their unwavering support. As she moved on, she reflected on the lessons this experience had taught her about trust, self-respect, and resilience. Though her story was one of heartbreak, it ultimately became one of strength, survival, and starting anew. Just 3 days after celebrating their dream wedding, a young bride's life took a devastating turn. What was supposed to be the happiest chapter of her life turned into an unimaginable nightmare when she caught her new husband in a shocking betrayal with her own younger sister. The betrayal cut deep, leaving everyone involved reeling with emotions that spiraled out of control. Tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface exploded in a way no one could have anticipated. As secrets unraveled and trust was shattered, the events took a dark and tragic turn that left an entire community shaken. How did a story of love and trust turn into heartbreak and chaos? What led to the unthinkable act that changed everything? Stick around as we dive into this gripping tale of love, betrayal, and the chilling aftermath that nobody saw coming. The couple had met through mutual friends, their whirlwind romance capturing the attention of everyone around them. They seemed like the perfect match. His charm and her warm personality made their love story feel almost like a fairy tale. The wedding was nothing short of magical, with close family and friends gathering to celebrate their union. But beneath the surface, there were whispers of tension, especially involving her younger sister. The bride's sister had always been close to her, often described as inseparable. But lately, subtle changes in her sister's behavior had begun to raise quiet doubts. Little glances, awkward silences, and moments that didn't feel quite right. Things the bride brushed off in the excitement of her new life. She couldn't imagine betrayal, especially not from two people she trusted most. What really happened during those 3 days? And what dark secrets were already bubbling to the surface before it all came crashing down? As the bride settled into her new life, she couldn't ignore the uneasiness growing inside her. Her husband, once so attentive and loving, seemed distracted, and her sister, usually bubbly and open, had become unusually reserved. At first, she told herself it was all in her head: wedding stress, adjusting to married life, and the overwhelming emotions of starting fresh. But small, unsettling details started to surface. The way her husband lingered in conversation with her sister, or the way they avoided eye contact when all three were together, it wasn't something she could shake off anymore. The bride's closest friends noticed her growing tension. When one of them casually mentioned seeing her husband and sister together in town during an odd hour, the bride's heart sank. She tried to piece things together without jumping to conclusions, but her instincts told her something wasn't right. Desperate to uncover the truth, she began to watch more closely, leading her to the moment that would change everything. Late one evening, the bride couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Her husband had left the house, claiming he needed to run a quick errand, but his tone was off, hurried and nervous. Her sister had disappeared earlier in the day, brushing off questions about where she was going. The pieces didn't add up. Fueled by growing doubt and unease, the bride decided to follow her instincts. She slipped out of the house and began searching, her heart racing with every passing minute. Eventually, she spotted her husband's car parked near a quiet, dimly lit cafe. Her breath caught as she saw her sister inside with him, their body language far too intimate to be innocent. It wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was betrayal in its rawest form. Unable to stay hidden, she stormed inside, her voice trembling with rage as she confronted them. The room seemed to freeze as their faces turned pale, guilt written all over them. But this confrontation was only the beginning of what would spiral into something much darker, leaving the bride on the brink of a decision that would change everything. The cafe fell silent as the bride's accusations echoed in the air. Her husband stammered, trying to explain, while her sister sat frozen, unable to meet her eyes. But before she could press for answers, something unexpected happened. A man sitting at a nearby table stood up and walked toward them. He introduced himself as someone who had been watching this unfolding drama for days. He claimed to know things about her husband, things that could blow this betrayal wide open. The bride, already reeling from what she'd just uncovered, barely had time to process this stranger's words. He revealed that her husband had been keeping secrets long before the wedding. Financial troubles, late-night meetings, and now this entanglement with her sister. There was far more at stake than she'd imagined. The bride was left questioning everything. Was this betrayal purely emotional, or was there an even deeper deception at play?